Get out. The voice, raspy and thin like dry leaves skittering across pavement, belonged to the old woman sitting bolt upright in her armchair. Grandma Eleanor, her eyes, usually clouded with age, were now sharp as chips of flint, fixed on her grandson. Grandma. Liam started, his voice a pathetic whisper. I said, "Get out." My father-in-law, a man whose hands were calloused from a lifetime of hard work, and whose face was usually a roadmap of gentle smiles, stood by the fireplace, his entire body trembling with a rage I'd never seen before. He picked up a small porcelain mug from the mantelpiece, one I had bought him for Christmas, and hurled it against the stone hearth. It shattered into 100 tiny pieces. "For a woman like that?" he roared, his voice cracking. "A piece of trash who spreads her legs in a public bathroom? You throw away your family, your wife, your child, for that?" Liam flinched as if he'd been struck. He wouldn't look at me. He couldn't. I sat on the sofa, a hand protectively cradling my swollen belly, and I felt nothing. It was a terrifying, hollow numbness. My body was there, in that suffocatingly quiet living room, but my mind was stuck, replaying the video. The 12-minute video that a friend had so thoughtfully forwarded to half the town, and then, eventually, to me. The grainy footage, the muffled sounds, the sickening lurch in my stomach as I recognized my husband's back, his hands, entangled with another woman, Jade, his ex. The sounds they made, they were branded onto the inside of my skull. Liam finally looked up, his eyes pleading, swimming in a pathetic cocktail of shame and desperation. He looked at his mother, then his father, then Eleanor. Finally, his gaze landed on me. "Clara." He breathed my name. I can explain." I almost laughed. Explain? What was there to explain? That the man I loved, the man whose child I was carrying, was now the star of the most humiliating viral video in our small town's history? Have you ever had your heart broken so completely that you couldn't even cry? It's a strange feeling, like you're watching a movie of someone else's life falling apart. But it wasn't always like this. Before the video, before the lies, before the suffocating silence in this room, there was just us, and it was beautiful. It was the kind of beautiful that makes you believe in forever. The kind of beautiful that was, I now realized, a complete and utter lie. My name is Clara. I'm 25, or at least, I was when this story began. I was a city girl, born and raised. My family wasn't mega rich, but we were comfortable. I worked at a decent bank. My parents never let me want for anything. And with 2 older brothers, I was the princess of the family, coddled and protected from the harsh realities of the world. And then, I met Liam. He was my college friend, Holly's older brother. She'd invite me to her family's home for a weekend getaway from the city, a small town a couple of hours' drive away, a place with more trees than people. The first time I saw him, he was fixing a fence in their yard, shirtless under the summer sun. He had this smile, a smile that could make you forget your own name. I fell, and I fell hard. He was different, quiet, gentle, with a kindness that seemed to radiate from him. He lived a simple life in that small town, but he had a white-hot intelligence and a soul that seemed ancient and calm. When he finally told me he had feelings for me, I didn't hesitate. After 2 years of dating, of me driving out of the city every weekend, and him taking the train in, we decided to get married. It was, for all intents and purposes, a perfect love story. The day I told my family I was bringing my boyfriend home to meet them, they were thrilled. They'd been nagging me for years, but the moment I mentioned that Liam was Holly's brother, from that little town 2 hours away. The celebration screeched to a halt. 2 hours? My mom said, her brow furrowing. Clara, honey, that's far. Mom, it's not far. It's a 2-hour drive. People commute longer than that every day, I argued, standing in our pristine city kitchen. But what happens when you have kids? We want to see our grandkids. What if you need me? I can't just pop over, so you'll drive. Or I'll drive here. It's not the 1800s, Mom. My older brother, Richard, chimed in, ever the joker. Hey, look on the bright side. If his family ever yells at our family, we won't be able to hear them from here. Saves us a headache. It's not funny, Richard, my dad said, though he was trying to hide a smile. My mom tried a different tactic. Why doesn't Liam move here? He could get a job in the city. You could buy a condo nearby. Mom, you know it's not that simple, I sighed, my patience wearing thin. His parents only have him. He's their only son. His whole life is there. His job, his family. He can't just leave. A ship follows its captain. Mom, I said, trying to sound worldly and wise. My father, who had been quiet until then, looked at me with his serious, kind eyes. Clara, we don't doubt that he's a good man, but life out there, it's different. It's not what you're used to. It can be hard. I'm not afraid of hard, I said, full of the blind confidence of a 5-year-old in love. I'll be fine. We'll be happy. You'll see. My mom sighed, shaking her head as she turned back to the sink. Don't come crying to me when it gets tough. I won't, I promised. You'll see. I'll be so happy. You'll have to admit you were wrong. After a month of what felt like a diplomatic negotiation for the right to my own life, they finally relented. They loved me, and they saw how much I loved him. The wedding was beautiful. A perfect blend of my city friends and his small-town family. I felt like I was floating on a cloud of white tulle and champagne bubbles. As I followed my new husband back to his town, back to our new life, I was filled with nothing but hope. His parents were lovely, truly. His sister, Holly, was my best friend. The only wild card, the one person Holly had warned me about, was his paternal grandmother, Grandma Eleanor. She's a character, Holly had told me over coffee a week before the wedding. She's tough, old school, everything has to be just so. Don't take anything she says personally. She lives by a code that doesn't exist anymore. Just be careful what you say. And for the love of God, don't be late for dinner. I just laughed. Oh, please. I'm great with old people. She'll love me. By the time I'm done with her, she'll be my biggest fan. Oh, the sweet, arrogant innocence. It's almost painful to look back on. Life in the country was quiet. The air was clean, crisp. It smelled of damp earth and pine needles. A world away from the exhaust fumes and hot concrete of the city. The first morning in my new home, I was tangled up in Liam's arms, deep in a blissful sleep. The sun was streaming through a gap in the curtains, and the sound of birds was almost deafening. I stretched, yawning, feeling utterly content. I sat up, pushed the hair from my face, and padded over to the window, pulling the curtains open. And I jumped. Standing on the lawn below, staring directly up at my window, was Grandma Eleanor. Her arms were crossed, her face set like stone. She saw me and pointed a single, bony finger at the ground. A summons. I quickly threw on a robe and hurried downstairs, my heart thumping a little. I found her on the porch, staring out at the yard. "Good morning, Grandma," I chirped, trying to sound as cheerful as possible. She turned her head slowly, her eyes raking over me. She let out a long, weary sigh. What time is it? I glanced at my phone. It's just 8 o'clock. 8 o'clock, she repeated, the words dripping with disapproval. You are a married woman now. You sleep until 8 in the morning? Did your mother teach you nothing? A wife is supposed to be up with the sun, to make breakfast, to clean the house. I forced a smile. Oh, well, back in the city, we usually just grab a bagel or something. Does everyone eat a big breakfast here every morning? This family eats 3 hot meals a day. At this table, she said, rapping her knuckles on the wooden porch railing. You think we can afford to eat at diners and cafes for breakfast, wasting money on toast and coffee? Just then, my mother-in-law returned from the local market, her bags full of fresh produce. Seeing the tension, she quickly intervened. Clara, honey, why don't you sweep the porch? Mom, come inside, have some tea. Let the kids rest. They just had a huge wedding. As I grabbed the broom, I heard Eleanor's stage whisper drift from the kitchen. Let them rest? A daughter-in-law sleeping until 8, while her mother-in-law is already up, been to the market, and is preparing to cook. What kind of upbringing is that? Mom, please, my mother-in-law's gentle voice replied. It's her first day. Be nice. I swept the porch, the dust motes dancing in the morning sun, and I could hear Eleanor's grumbling. Normally, that kind of comment would have bothered me, but I was still wrapped in my newlywed bubble. I was carefree. I wouldn't let a grumpy old woman get me down. Later, when Eleanor was visiting a neighbor, my mother-in-law pulled me aside in the kitchen. Don't mind her, she said softly, squeezing my hand. Her bark is much worse than her bite. She doesn't mean any harm. This is our home now, and we'll do things together. If there's anything you don't know how to do, you just have to ask me, okay? Her kindness was a balm. I felt reassured, but life in the country was a classroom, and I was a student who had skipped every single prerequisite. The first month, before I started my new job at the local bank branch, I was home. My mission, to learn how to be a domestic goddess, or at least not burn the house down. Waking up was the first hurdle. I set my alarm for 5 a.m. It would go off, I'd hit snooze, 5-5. Snooze. This would continue until 6:30, when Liam would literally have to sit me up, place a warm washcloth on my face, and coax me out of bed like I was a hibernating bear. My mother-in-law, bless her heart, tried to make it easy on me. If you don't want to cook a big breakfast, she'd said, you can just make some noodle soup. Just boil some noodles with a little ground pork. But maybe only 2 or 3 times a week. People will get tired of it. Noodle soup with ground pork. How hard could that be? I'd lived on instant ramen for 4 years of college. I was an expert. One morning, my mother-in-law had to leave early to help an aunt whose house was being renovated. It was my time to shine. I strode into the kitchen, rolled up my sleeves, and thought, noodle soup. Pfft, child's play. I filled a large pot with water and brought it to a boil. I then dumped in an entire package of noodles, probably a full pound. I added a bowl of raw ground pork, sprinkled in some salt and pepper, gave it a stir, and put the lid on. Done. While it simmered, I decided to be productive. I'll sweep the floors. Then I'll sweep the porch. Then I'll sweep the front walk. I got lost in my sweeping, feeling incredibly proud of my domestic diligence. A voice from inside startled me. What is that smell? Something's burning. Clara. It was Grandma Eleanor. My heart dropped. Oh God, the soup. I threw the broom down and sprinted back into the kitchen. I yanked the pot off the burner. The noodles had absorbed all the water, expanded to 3 times their size, and were overflowing out from under the lid. A thick, black, burnt crust was cemented to the bottom of the pot. Eleanor walked in, her nose wrinkled in disgust. Heavens above, child. What in God's name did you create? I scratched my head, offering a sheepish grin. It's, noodle soup with ground pork. I was just going to sweep the porch, but then I got carried away and swept the walkway too, and I guess I forgot. She let out another one of her signature sighs, a sound that conveyed a universe of disappointment. Look at this monstrosity. You are spectacularly inept. She poked at the gelatinous noodle blob with a spoon. Well, no use crying over burnt, whatever this is. Just make some instant ramen with eggs. I haven't had that in a while. I'm craving something simple. And make it a little bland. My stomach's been acting up. Yes, Grandma, on it. Instant ramen with eggs. Now that was my territory. This I could do. After breakfast, as she was getting ready to walk to a friend's house, she gave me my next assignment. Clara, I want you to slaughter a chicken for lunch. I froze. Slaughter a chicken? Yes. A fresh one from the coop. They're farm-raised, no hormones. Delicious. Liam is at work, and I'm going to Mrs. Henderson's for a bit. You'll be home alone. Slaughter the chicken, and get the rice started for lunch. Oh, and keep an eye on the vegetable garden. The neighbor's dog keeps getting in and trampling my cabbages. Yes, Grandma, I mumbled, my mind reeling. You're taking the car? I asked, hoping for a reprieve. No, I'm walking. It's good exercise. And with that, the 80-year-old woman set off down the road with a spryness that defied her age. Liam came out of our room, dressed for work. Be good while I'm gone, he said, kissing my forehead. Liam, your grandma wants me to. Kill a chicken. He paused. Oh, right. Do you know how to do that? No. Of course I don't know how to do that. In the city, you call the butcher, and a clean, plastic-wrapped chicken appears at your door. I've never seen a live chicken outside of a petting zoo. Well, you can call your mom and ask. I'm sure she knows. My mom? My mom's idea of making chicken is ordering from Popeyes. He just chuckled. You'll figure it out. You're smart. He gave me another quick kiss and left for work. I was alone. It was me versus the chickens. I finished the dishes, folded the laundry, and then, taking a deep breath, I walked out to the chicken coop. A dozen or so chickens were pecking around in the dirt. Okay, step 1. Catch a chicken. How hard could that be? I ran into the house, grabbed a bowl of grain, and scattered it on the ground. Here, chicky, 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 I cooed. They swarmed the grain. This is my chance. I lunged and missed. Chaos erupted. Chickens squawked and scattered in every direction, a tornado of feathers and droppings. The smell was potent, but I was not deterred. Failure was not an option. This was a matter of pride. I refilled the bowl, scattered more grain, and this time, I dove like a shortstop, fielding a ground ball. Success. I had a large rooster pinned under my hands. I grabbed it, holding it tight against my chest, a triumphant grin on my face. I got you, I shouted to no one. This is amazing. Do you know that feeling when you accomplish something you never thought you could? It's a rush, isn't it? I decided right then and there I would write all of this down. A journal for my future children to read, so they could see how their mother, a sophisticated city girl, had adapted and conquered the challenges of rural life, so they could see what resilience truly looked like. I carried the squawking bird into the kitchen to find some rope to tie its feet, but as I fumbled with the string, my grip loosened for a split second. That's all it took. The rooster shot out of my hands, a feathered missile, and flew right out the open kitchen door. Oh, you have got to be kidding me. I chased it around the yard. It was shockingly fast. I was getting winded. This was more exercise than I'd gotten in a year. To my horror, the rooster ran straight into Grandma Eleanor's prized vegetable garden. Oh, no you don't. I dove into the garden after it, trampling over tender lettuce leaves and young cabbage heads. After a frantic, dirt-filled chase that completely destroyed a row of vegetables, I finally tackled the bird again. I was exhausted, covered in dirt and probably chicken poop, but victorious. I tied its feet securely this time, took a deep breath, and called my brother, Richard. He answered on the second ring. Clara, what's up? Richard, I need your help. Mom's not home. How do you kill a chicken? There was a pause, then a burst of laughter. You're kidding, right? You, Clara, are trying to kill a chicken? This is priceless. Why? Because Grandma told me to. Just tell me what to do. He sighed, still chuckling. Okay, you idiot. It's simple. You hang it upside down. You cut its throat to let the blood drain out. Once it's dead, you dip it in a pot of hot water, not boiling, just hot, to loosen the feathers. Then you pluck it clean. That's it. Even you should be able to handle that. I can't believe you're calling me for this. You wanted to be a country wife. Here you go. Okay, thanks. Bye. I hung up before he could make any more jokes. I followed his instructions. It was gruesome. I managed to cut the neck a bit too much. I think the whole head came off and I kind of threw it into the garden in a panic. But eventually, the bloody part was over. I had a dead, featherless chicken. I felt like a warrior, a pioneer woman. I put the chicken in a pot of water to boil, set the rice cooker, and then, exhausted, I lay down on the couch to scroll through my phone, waiting for my masterpiece to cook. An hour later, Grandma Eleanor came home. Clara, have you slaughtered the chicken yet? She called from the doorway. Yes, Grandma. It's boiling on the stove, I announced proudly. She walked out to the yard to inspect her garden. A moment later, I heard a piercing shriek. Clara, I ran outside. She was standing at the edge of her garden, which now looked like a herd of elephants had stampeded through it. What happened to my garden? The dog. I told you to watch for the dog. Oh, that wasn't the dog. Grandma, I said meekly. That was me. You? Why would you do this? My beautiful cabbages. When I was chasing the chicken, it ran in here, and I had to run in here to catch it. I'm so sorry. She started to wail, real tears streaming down her wrinkled cheeks. My garden, all my hard work, ruined. I felt terrible. Panicked, I defaulted to the only solution a city girl knows. I'll pay for it. I'll give you money for the vegetables. Grandma, please don't cry. She kept sobbing. You think money can replace my garden? How much? I pressed. I'll give you $500. She sniffled, her crying tapering off slightly. Okay. 1,000. I'll give you $1,000. Please stop crying. She stopped crying instantly. She looked at me, a shrewd glint in her teary eyes. She held out a wrinkled hand. 2,000. And I wanted in crisp $50 bills. Easier for me to count. I ran inside, grabbed the cash from my emergency stash, and paid her. She folded the money neatly and tucked it into her apron pocket, her grief miraculously cured. Is the chicken done? She asked, her voice suddenly light and cheerful. I think so. I pulled the cooked chicken out of the pot and placed it on a platter. It looked fine. A bit pale, maybe. Do you know how to chop it? She asked, picking up a large cleaver. Or should I? Maybe you should, Grandma. She approached the platter, cleaver in hand, ready to portion the bird, but then she stopped. Her face, which had been so cheerful a moment ago, began to contort into a mask of pure horror and disbelief. "Clara, come here." Her voice was dangerously quiet. I walked over. "What's wrong?" She pointed at the chicken with the tip of the cleaver. You just plucked it. You didn't gut it?" I stared at the bird. "Gut it?" "Yes, gut it," she shrieked. "You didn't open it up. You didn't remove the insides, the gizzards, the intestines, the feces." My blood ran cold. "Oh, so that's why it looked like it was missing something." Her face turned a shade of purple I had never seen before. "So you're telling me you just boiled this chicken with all of its guts and poop still inside?" I guess so. "That was it," she snapped. With a primal scream of fury, she raised the cleaver and charged at me. "I'm going to kill you." I screamed and ran for my life. An 80-year-old woman was chasing me around the yard with a meat cleaver. She was surprisingly fast. As I was running out of breath, a desperate idea popped into my head. I reached into my pocket, pulled out $200 bills, and threw them on the ground behind me. "I'll pay for the chicken, Grandma. I'll pay for it." She skidded to a stop. She looked at the money, then back at me. She picked up the bills, her breathing heavy. "The market price for a rooster this size is $250, she panted. I fumbled in my pocket and threw another 50 on the ground. That afternoon, the neighbor's dog had a very expensive and fully cooked, albeit ungutted, chicken for lunch. And Grandma Eleanor and I ate rice with soy sauce. What can I say? She was a difficult woman, but at least her problems had solutions you could throw money at. It was my tuition, I figured. The cost of learning how to be a daughter-in-law. When my mother-in-law got home that evening and saw us eating our sad little bowls of rice, she knew something was up. "What happened to the chicken?" she asked, looking at the empty platters. Eleanor just sniffed. "Your daughter-in-law had an accident with it. We're having a simple meal tonight, good for the digestion." Later, when Eleanor was in her room, listening to the radio, my mother-in-law found me in the kitchen, scrubbing futilely at the burnt pot. "Did she really give you a hard time about the chicken?" she asked gently. I looked at her, then down at the ruined pot. I could have told her everything: the chase, the destroyed garden, the cleaver, the bribes. But I didn't. "No, not at all," I lied, forcing a smile. I overcooked it, and she was a little upset about the garden, but I smoothed things over. "We're fine." She looked at me with an expression of profound pity and understanding. She knew her mother. She knew I was lying, but she also knew I was lying to keep the peace. She just patted my shoulder. "You're a good girl, Clara." I think in that moment, she understood that I was strong enough to handle this new life. Life fell into a rhythm. My mother-in-law got a part-time job as a cook at the local elementary school, and my father-in-law worked long hours in construction. Liam was gone all day at his job, which meant that from sunrise to sunset, it was just me and Grandma Eleanor. We were like a pair of mismatched, bickering roommates. An 80-year-old and a 25-year-old, navigating the quiet spaces of the house and each other. There was this enormous, ancient sycamore tree in the front yard. It was beautiful, majestic even. But in the fall, it was my mortal enemy. It shed leaves with a vengeance. I'd sweep the entire yard in the morning, and by lunch, it would be covered again. I'd sweep at lunch, and by late afternoon, a fresh blanket of yellow and brown would have fallen. One afternoon, I was out there, muttering to myself as I swept 3 times a day. Still covered in leaves. This is ridiculous. Eleanor was sitting on the porch, chewing on some mint leaves. "All that grumbling over a few leaves," she called out. "Be glad we don't have a bigger farm. A little hard work would do you some good." "It's not the work, Grandma," I said, leaning on the broom. "It's the futility of it. Why don't we just cut the tree down?" The look she gave me could have frozen fire. "Cut it down? Child, have you lost your mind? That tree provides shade for the entire house in the summer. Do you know how much that saves on the electric bill? And the sap. We tap it for syrup in the spring. You make syrup from that tree?" I asked, intrigued. "Of course. A little fresh syrup on pancakes on a Sunday morning. It warms the soul, Clara. It warms the soul." "Well, we could just buy syrup from the store," I countered. "And the leaves are making the yard look messy. It's bad for the curb appeal." "Curb appeal," she scoffed. "Listen to you with your city words. This is the country. A few leaves on the ground is called nature." I looked at the ancient, gnarled trunk of the tree, and an idea, a wicked, brilliant idea, began to form in my mind. I walked over and sat on the porch steps near her. "You know, a tree this old," I began, my voice low and conspiratorial. "It must have been here for a long, long time." "It was here when I was a girl," she said, her voice softening with memory. "I can't even remember a time it wasn't standing right there." "Wow," I breathed. "Trees that old. They say they have spirits. You know, sometimes when I'm out here at dusk, I get goosebumps." She shot me a suspicious look. "What are you talking about? Spirits? Oh, you haven't heard the stories?" I said, feigning surprise. "The story of the sycamore spirit?" She narrowed her eyes. "No, tell me." And so, I spun a tale. I told her about a young woman from 100 years ago who had fallen in love with a boy her family forbade her from seeing. In her despair, she drowned herself in the nearby creek. But her spirit was so heartbroken, so lost, it couldn't find its way to the afterlife. It suffered from a kind of spiritual amnesia, so every night it would wander the town, lost and weeping, before returning to the oldest, largest tree it could find, the sycamore, to sleep in its branches until the sun came up. They say, I finished, my voice a whisper, that on quiet nights you can still hear her crying for her lost love. Eleanor was silent. She stared at the tree, her face pale. That's ridiculous, she finally said, but her voice lacked conviction. A ghost with amnesia? I've never heard of such a thing. The spirit world works just like ours, Grandma, I said sagely. If a soul is troubled, it can't find its home, so it finds shelter where it can, in old houses or in old trees. You're trying to spook me, aren't you? You're making this up. Why would I make that up? I asked innocently. Well, I'd better finish sweeping before it gets dark. I left her there on the porch. For the next hour, I watched her through the window. She paced back and forth, staring at the tree, then looking around nervously, as if expecting a weeping ghost to appear at any moment. The next morning, I saw her on the phone. 15 minutes later, a man in a pickup truck from a local logging company pulled up. He and Eleanor stood under the sycamore, pointing and measuring. I walked outside. Grandma, what's going on? I'm selling the tree, she said, matter-of-factly. It's gotten old. The branches are looking brittle. It's a hazard in a storm, and it barely produced any good sap last spring anyway. This way, you won't have to sweep so much. I feigned shock, but what about the summer shade? The soul-warming syrup? She waved a dismissive hand. The market is full of syrup, and we'll get an air conditioner. Now go start lunch. I'm hungry." After the man paid her and left, she came inside and pressed $200 bills into my hand. "Here," she said, "go buy a couple of nice rotisserie chickens for dinner." That evening, when my in-laws came home and saw the massive stump where the beautiful sycamore had stood for nearly a century, their faces fell. "Mom, what happened to the tree?" my father-in-law asked, his voice filled with genuine pain. Eleanor, who was lying on the sofa listening to a church sermon on the radio, didn't even turn her head. "I sold it. It was old. But that tree, I grew up climbing that tree. We had picnics under it. Why would you sell it without asking us?" my mother-in-law said, her voice trembling slightly. "I made a decision," Eleanor said, her voice firm, final. "Don't you two question me. I don't want to hear another word about it, or I'll get a terrible headache and have to go to bed." That was her trump card. The threat of her getting sick, it silenced them immediately. At dinner, they were both so quiet, pushing the food around on their plates. I saw the sadness in their eyes, and a wave of guilt washed over me. I had killed their tree. A month after the Great Sycamore Massacre, I started my new job at the bank branch in town. It felt good to be back at work, to have a purpose beyond appeasing an 80-year-old woman and failing at domestic chores. One Sunday, I took the day and drove back to the city to see my parents. The moment my mom saw me, she pulled me into a hug and held me at arm's length, inspecting me. "Clara, you're so tan, and you've lost weight. Are they working you too hard out there? Are you eating enough?" "Mom, I'm fine," I laughed. "It's called being outside, and I haven't lost weight. I'm just not eating takeout 3 times a week anymore." "Where's Liam? Why didn't he come with you?" "He had to work, Mom. And please, don't send me any more money. I have a job. I'm fine." She sighed, her face etched with worry. "I knew it. I told you not to marry a boy from so far away. Now I only get to see you once a month. It's not right." "Mom, please don't start. I'm happy. Really. Are you? How are the in-laws? Are they good to you?" "Yes, they're wonderful. And Liam, is he treating you well?" "Of course he is, Mom. He's the best. I wouldn't have married him if he wasn't." She lowered her voice, leaning in as if sharing a secret. "I don't know, Clara. A man that handsome and that gentle. That's a dangerous combination. Women see a man like that and they see a challenge. You have to be careful. You can't be naive." I rolled my eyes. "Oh my God, Mom. You've been watching too many soap operas. This is Liam we're talking about. He wouldn't even know how to cheat if he tried." Looking back, the irony is so thick it could choke you. After 3 months of marriage, I had settled in. I had learned to cook a few basic meals. I had become a pro at anticipating Eleanor's moods. And my daughter-in-law tuition, as I'd come to call it, had cost me nearly $3,000 in damages and bribes. But something strange had happened. Eleanor and I had become friends, in our own weird, dysfunctional way. My mother-in-law said that, since I had arrived, the house, which had been so quiet, was now filled with life and laughter and the occasional shouting match. It felt like a real home. And then, 5 months after our wedding, the best thing happened. I was pregnant. The joy in that house was palpable. Liam was ecstatic. His parents were already picking out names, but no one was happier than Grandma Eleanor. It was like a switch had been flipped. The grumpy, critical old woman disappeared, and in her place was the most loving, doting great-grandmother to be you have ever seen. She wouldn't let me lift a finger. I would sleep in until 9 in the morning, and when I came downstairs, she would have a plate of sliced fruit waiting for me, stored in the fridge to be perfectly cool. "You're awake, dear?" she'd say, her voice full of a tenderness I never knew she possessed. "Come, eat some fruit. It's good for the baby." "Grandma, you did the laundry already?" I'd ask, seeing the clean clothes hanging on the line outside. "Of course. You need to rest. You're growing a person in there. That's hard work." One afternoon, we were sitting on the porch together, and I just had to tease her. "You know, Grandma, you're so nice to me now. It's hard to believe you're the same woman who used to chase me around the yard with a meat cleaver." She looked at me, a twinkle in her eye, and gave a little sniff. "Chase you with a cleaver? When did I ever do that? You must have been dreaming, child. Now, eat your apple slices." They were beautiful, peaceful days, the kind of quiet happiness you think will last forever. But peace like that is fragile. A single secret, a single moment of weakness is all it takes to shatter it into a million pieces. And it was about to be shattered. My pregnancy was difficult. I had terrible morning sickness that lasted all day, and a deep, aching fatigue settled into my bones. Most nights, I was in bed by 8 o'clock, too exhausted to even have a real conversation with Liam. I was so wrapped up in my own physical misery, and so secure in my trust for him, that I didn't notice the small changes. I didn't notice the way he'd started guarding his phone, the way he'd stay up late, scrolling, long after I'd fallen asleep. I thought, he's a good man, a kind man. A man like that could never betray me. I was wrong. Her name was Jade. She was his high school sweetheart, the one everyone thought he would marry. They broke up 3 years before I met him, when she moved abroad for a job. It was an amicable split, he'd told me. Ancient history, but as the old saying goes, the past is never dead. It's not even past. Liam and Jade ran into each other at a high school reunion. A single night. That's all it took. "Liam?" He turned, a beer in his hand, and his face broke into a smile of genuine surprise. "Jade? Wow. When did you get back in the country?" "Last week," she said, her smile dazzling. "It's so good to see you." And for the rest of the night, they were inseparable, tucked away in a corner booth, catching up, laughing, reminiscing. The alcohol flowed, the years melted away, a dangerous warmth, a familiar comfort rekindled between them. She looked at him, her eyes dark and intense over the rim of her glass. "So, you're married now. I saw on Facebook." "Yeah," he said, a little sheepishly. "About 6 months now. You didn't invite me." He scratched the back of his neck, a nervous habit I knew well. "Well, I didn't have your number. You changed it when you moved overseas." I tried to call. She slid closer to him on the vinyl seat, her knee brushing against his. "Well, you have it now." She took his phone, punched in her number, and saved it. "So, are you back for good?" he asked. "Depends," she said, her voice dropping to a low purr. "If I find a good enough reason to stay." A little while later, she excused herself to go to the restroom. She reapplied her lipstick, a bold, confident red. She spritzed perfume on her neck, behind her ears, and then she took out her phone and sent Liam a text. "Hey, can you come out to the hallway? Need your help with something." He stood up immediately and walked out of the noisy bar. The hallway leading to the restrooms was dim, empty. The music was a dull thud behind the closed door. "Jade?" he called out softly. "What's up?" The restroom door creaked open. She reached out, grabbed his shirt, and pulled him inside, kicking the door shut behind them. "Jade, what are you?" She silenced him with a kiss. It wasn't gentle or hesitant. It was hungry, demanding. A kiss that tasted of beer and regret and years of unspoken what-ifs. He was shocked, but only for a moment. The alcohol, the nostalgia, the raw, physical pull of her. He didn't resist. He couldn't. He kissed her back, his hands finding their way to her waist, pulling her flush against him. She was bold, shameless, a product of years living a fast-paced, uninhibited life abroad. As she kissed him, her hand slid down his stomach, unbuckling his belt. He grabbed her wrist, pulling back slightly. "Jade, we can't. Not here." "Why not?" she whispered against his lips. "I want you. Don't you want me?" I have a wife." "I know," she said, her voice husky. "I heard she's pregnant. That must be frustrating for you. Let me help you with that frustration." She pushed him against the tiled wall, her hands busy, efficient. He was lost, drowning in a sea of sensations he hadn't felt in months, a guilt-ridden pleasure that was both thrilling and horrifying. He was a passenger in his own body, and she was in complete control. Outside the restroom, one of their old friends noticed they were gone. "Hey, where'd Liam and Jade go?" Someone else snickered. "Probably out in his car, catching up. You know how they were back in the day." A friend who went to use the restroom found the door locked. He was about to turn back when he heard it. Faint, but unmistakable. The rhythmic sound, the soft moans, the sharp intake of breath. He pressed his ear against the door. A slow, disbelieving grin spreading across his face. He walked back into the bar. "You guys are not going to believe this. Liam is screwing Jade in the men's room. Right now." A chorus of shocked laughter and crude jokes erupted. "No way. Good old Liam. His wife's pregnant too. The man's a legend." They were just drunk friends making jokes. They didn't see the real danger, but someone else did. A young busboy, cleaning tables nearby, heard the commotion. His curiosity piqued. He went into the staff closet, grabbed a small step stool, carried it into the women's restroom next door, and stood on it. He held his phone over the top of the stall, the camera lens pointing down, and he recorded everything. An hour later, they stumbled out of the restroom, clothes straightened, faces flushed. "You're amazing," she whispered, kissing him one last time. "Come to my place sometime soon." "I will," he promised. When they returned to the bar, their friends were all gone. They said their goodbyes, and each went home to their separate lives. I was in bed, half asleep, a dull ache in my lower back. I needed to use the bathroom, a frequent occurrence these days. "Liam," I mumbled, nudging him. "Honey, can you help me up?" He was lying with his back to me. "What is it?" he grumbled, his voice thick with sleep. "I have to pee. My hip is killing me. I can't get up." He let out an exasperated sigh, rolled over, and pulled me to a sitting position. Then he flopped back onto the bed, turning away from me again. "Are you okay?" I asked. "You smell like a brewery." "Drank too much," he mumbled into his pillow. "Long-lost friends. Had to celebrate." "Well, drink less next time. It's not good for you." I hobbled to the bathroom and back. "Aren't you going to rub my back so I can fall asleep?" "God, Clara, you're so needy," he snapped, his voice muffled. "Other women go through pregnancy without complaining this much. I'm tired. Just go to sleep." He pulled the covers over his head, a clear signal that the conversation was over. I lay there in the dark, stunned into silence. It was the first time he had ever spoken to me with such coldness. I told myself it was just the alcohol, that he was tired. I didn't let myself believe it could be anything more. From that night on, a subtle distance grew between us. He started coming home late from work, always with the same excuse. Just finishing up a project. He'd come in at 9 o'clock, long after I'd eaten and gone to bed. We were living in the same house, sleeping in the same bed, but we were miles apart. After 2 weeks of this, Eleanor started to get suspicious. One night, she was waiting for him on the front porch when he pulled into the driveway. "Grandma, what are you doing out here?" "It's cold. I'm waiting for you," she said, her voice stern. "Come here." He walked over to the porch steps. She stood up and sniffed the air around him. "You smell different, like a woman's perfume." Liam froze. "What? Grandma, what are you talking about? You're having an affair, aren't you?" He was so startled by her directness that he almost laughed. "Grandma, that's crazy. I'm working late, that's all. You're starting to imagine things. I can see it in your eyes," she said, her own eyes narrowing. "You have the same look your grandfather had, God rest his soul, the year he was fooling around with that waitress from the diner. I know that look, Liam. End it. End it now. A woman who would knowingly sleep with a married man is trash. She's not worth destroying your family over." He raised his voice, a defensive anger rising in him. "Stop it, Grandma. You're talking crazy. Clara's pregnant. Do you want her to hear this and get upset over nothing? Just drop it." He stormed inside, his heart pounding in his chest. He had managed to deflect her, but he was shaken. He hadn't realized how obvious he was being. Eleanor stood on the porch, watching him go. She knew she was right, but she was an old woman. How could she prove it? A few days later, she came up to my room with a glass of milk. "Here, dear, drink this. It's good for the baby." As I drank, she sat on the edge of my bed. "That phone of yours," she said, nodding at my smartphone on the nightstand. "Is it hard to use?" I laughed. "Not really." "Why? Are you thinking of upgrading from your flip phone, Grandma?" "Maybe. All my friends at the senior center are always watching videos on their big phones. I want to see what all the fuss is about." "How do you turn it on?" "You just swipe up like this." I showed her. She took the phone, her old, wrinkled finger clumsily swiping at the screen. "Oh, like that? Let me try." We spent the next 10 minutes laughing as I taught her the basics of a smartphone. My mother-in-law walked past the open door and smiled. "What are you two giggling about?" "I'm teaching Grandma how to use a smartphone," I said. "She wants you to buy her one so she can watch music videos." "Is that so?" My mother-in-law chuckled. "Okay, Mom, we'll go shopping this weekend." But Eleanor wasn't interested in music videos. She had a plan. For days, she watched Liam like a hawk, waiting for an opportunity. But he was careful. His phone never left his side, not even when he showered. Then, one morning, he made a mistake. He was on a call, and when he finished, he set the phone down on the kitchen table while he went outside to feed the birds. He was careless because he thought he and his grandmother were the only ones home. I had an early doctor's appointment that morning. Eleanor saw her chance. With a speed that defied her age, she snatched the phone from the table, slipped it into her deep apron pocket, and headed for the front door. "Where are you going so early, Grandma?" Liam called from the yard. "To the market," she said, not breaking her stride. "I need a few things. Let me drive you." No. I have a few other stops to make. You get ready for work." She practically ran down the road. Liam finished with the birds, watered the plants, and went inside to get ready for work. He looked for his phone on the table. It was gone. "That's weird," he muttered. "I know I left it right here." He searched the entire kitchen, then the living room. He started to panic. A thief? No. His wallet was still on the counter. He searched frantically, but the phone was gone. With a frustrated groan, he realized he was going to be late for work and rushed out the door. Meanwhile, Eleanor had gone straight to her daughter's house, Liam's aunt. Her teenage granddaughter, a whiz with technology, was there. "Jessica, honey, come here. Grandma needs your help." "What is it, Grandma?" "I need you to look through Liam's phone. See if he's been texting anyone he shouldn't be." Jessica took the phone. A few swipes and taps later, she said, His texts are clean. But in his messaging app, he's been talking to 2 people a lot." "2? Who are they?" "One is just his boss. The other is a woman named Jade." "Jade," Eleanor breathed. "Read me the messages." And so, Jessica read them. The flirtatious texts, the suggestive emojis, the plans to meet up. "Jade, are you getting ready to come to me?" "Liam, soon. What do you want me to bring for dinner?" "Jade, I don't want dinner. I just want you." Eleanor listened, her face growing darker with every word. That shameless hussy." "Grandma, what does that even mean?" Jessica asked, stifling a giggle. "It means she's a tramp," Eleanor snapped. "Is there an address for this?" "This Jade, no address. But I have an idea of how we can meet her." "How?" "We'll text her," Jessica said, a mischievous glint in her eye. "We'll pretend to be Liam and ask her to meet us somewhere. When she shows up, you can give her a piece of your mind." Eleanor's lips curled into a grim smile. "Excellent. Let's do it." The 2 of them, the 80-year-old great-grandmother and the 16-year-old tech-savvy teenager, huddled over the phone, plotting their revenge. Jessica's fingers flew across the screen. A modern-day general commanding her digital troops. "Liam, Jessica, hey, you." The reply was almost instantaneous. "Jade, hey yourself. You're not at work today?" "Liam, Jessica, finishing up a few things. Meet me for coffee at that little cafe near my office." "Jade, oh, are we going shopping after?" "You promised to buy me something pretty." Eleanor leaned in, squinting at the tiny text. "Shopping?" The nerve of that woman. Jessica grinned. "Liam, Jessica, of course. What do you want?" "Jade, that watch we saw last week, the one for $1,200. Eleanor gasped. $1,200 for a watch? Is she insane? "Liam, Jessica, done. Meet me at the Sunbeam Cafe in 30 minutes. I'll be there as soon as I'm finished here." "Jade, okay. See you soon. XOXO." "All right, Grandma," Jessica said, setting the phone down. "The trap is set. Now, what's your battle plan? Are you prepared for the ambush?" "Battle plan?" Eleanor repeated. "What do I need?" "Well, that depends. How do you want to handle this? Verbally? Physically? Do you need scissors? Hot sauce? Itching powder?" Eleanor stood up and walked into the kitchen. She returned a moment later holding a pair of heavy-duty fabric shears. "I'm going to cut off all her hair," she announced, her voice grim. "And then I'm going to give her a beating she won't forget." Jessica's eyes widened. "Whoa, okay, this is serious. Her name is Jade," Eleanor mused, testing the sharpness of the blades. "I wonder if it's that old girlfriend of his, the one who moved away. He told me her name was Jade." "I don't know, Grandma. We'll find out when we see her. Let's go. I'll drive you." As they walked to the car, Jessica hesitated. "Grandma, should we call Clara? Tell her what's going on?" "Absolutely not," Eleanor said firmly. "Clara is pregnant. She doesn't need this kind of stress. This is a family matter. I will handle it. And you, young lady, will keep your mouth shut. Do you understand?" "Yes, Grandma. But are you sure about this? It's just the 2 of us. What if she puts up a fight?" Eleanor stopped and turned to face her granddaughter. a fearsome glint in her ancient eyes. Jessica, do not mistake my age for weakness. Ginger gets spicier the older it gets. I may be 80, but I have the strength of a woman half my age, and the righteous fury of a wronged grandmother. Now, get in the car. Jade was giddy with excitement. She put on her tightest red dress, the one that showed off her figure, and took a taxi to the cafe. Jessica pulled up across the street from the Sunbeam Cafe. Okay, Grandma, we're here. Eleanor peered through the window. Which one is she? See the woman in the red dress by the window? The one with all the cleavage? That's her. The profile picture on her messaging app is the same, always showing off her chest. Tasteless, Eleanor muttered. But are you sure it's her? I don't want to attack the wrong woman. That would be embarrassing. You are right, Jessica said. Go in and confirm. If it's her, then do what you have to do. You're not coming in? No way, Jessica said, sinking down in her seat. I'll be the getaway driver, but I am definitely going to watch. Eleanor took a deep breath, straightened her cardigan, and marched across the street and into the cafe. Jade looked up from her phone, surprised, as the old woman approached her table. She recognized her instantly. A flicker of panic crossed her face, but she quickly masked it with a polite, if strained, smile. Mrs. Eleanor, what a surprise. What are you doing here? Eleanor's voice was as cool and smooth as river stones. I could ask you the same thing. You're waiting for my grandson, I presume? Jade's smile faltered. You're the one who texted me? Where's Liam? Eleanor sat down opposite her, picked up Jade's glass of orange juice, and drained it in one long gulp. Liam left his phone at home. I took the liberty of borrowing it. He knows nothing about this little meeting. A knot of fear tightened in Jade's stomach. Oh, I see. Well, what can I do for you? Eleanor flagged down a waiter. A cup of black coffee, please, piping hot. She then turned her gaze back to Jade. You can sit there and be quiet. We will have our conversation after I've had my coffee. We have plenty of time. Actually, I'm kind of busy, Jade said, starting to stand up. If there's nothing important, I should probably get going. Sit down, Eleanor commanded, her voice low but sharp. Jade froze, her eyes darting around the nearly empty cafe. She reached for her phone, but Eleanor was faster. She snatched it from the table and, in one swift motion, slammed it onto the tiled floor. The screen spider-webbed into 1,000 tiny cracks. Jade gasped. What are you doing? That was a brand new phone. Do you know how much that cost? I would happily smash your face. So what do I care about a telephone? Eleanor hissed. You want to make a scene? You want to shout? Go ahead. Let's tell everyone in this cafe what you are. A shameless homewrecker. Rage flared in Jade's eyes. You old hag, be careful what you say. Who are you calling a homewrecker? You have no proof. Oh, I have proof, Eleanor said, her voice dripping with contempt. Every single filthy message you sent my grandson is saved on his phone. I can print them out. I can make flyers. I can paper this entire town with your dirty little secrets. Is that what you want? You knew he was married. You knew his wife was pregnant. And you pursued him anyway. You are the lowest form of trash. You shut up, Jade spat, her face red with fury. I'll sue you for slander. Go ahead, sue me. Let's go to court. Let's have a public record of what kind of woman you are. I would welcome it. Realizing she couldn't win a war of words, Jade stood up abruptly. I'm leaving. If you want to talk to someone, talk to your grandson. He's the one who came after me. If he wasn't interested, I couldn't have seduced him. You understand? Oh, don't you worry, Eleanor said, a cold, dangerous smile spreading across her face. I will deal with Liam. But first, I have to deal with you. The waiter arrived with the coffee. Eleanor picked up the steaming mug. You want to act tough? You want to be a big shot? And she threw the hot coffee directly into Jade's face. Jade screamed, a raw, piercing sound of pain and shock. As she scrambled for napkins to wipe her burning skin, Eleanor lunged. She grabbed the front of Jade's dress, the fabric shears appearing in her hand as if from nowhere. With a single, vicious snip, she cut the strap of the dress. Jade shrieked again, clutching the front of her dress to keep it from falling down. Help me! Somebody! Help me! The young waiter stood frozen behind the counter, too stunned to move. Eleanor grabbed a fistful of Jade's long, shiny hair. I'm going to make you bald, you little tramp, she snarled, bringing the shears up. Jade panicked. She broke free and ran, stumbling on her ridiculously high heels. She burst out of the cafe door, half-dressed and screaming. Jessica, who had been watching the entire drama unfold from the car, saw her chance. As Jade stumbled onto the sidewalk, Jessica swung open the car door, right in her path. Jade didn't see it. She tripped over the door and went sprawling onto the pavement. It was all the opening Eleanor needed. She was on her in a second, not with the shears, but with one of Jade's own high-heeled shoes that had come off in the fall. She began beating Jade on the back and head with the heel. You like sleeping with other women's husbands? Whack. You like destroying families? Whack. I'll teach you a lesson you'll never forget. Whack, whack, whack. Jessica was now out of the car, cheering her on. Get her, Grandma. That's it. Harder. A few passers-by, seeing an old woman beating a younger one in the street, rushed over to intervene. Ma'am, stop. What's going on here? You're going to kill her. Jessica immediately stepped in, holding up Liam's phone. This woman is a homewrecker. She's sleeping with my married cousin, whose wife is pregnant. It's all right here in the texts. She deserved everything she got. The would-be saviors looked at the phone, then at the sobbing, disheveled heap that was Jade, and then back at the furious 80-year-old woman standing over her. They backed away, no longer interested in getting involved. Someone took off their jacket and draped it over Jade's shoulders. Just go home, they said, their voice devoid of sympathy, and maybe find an unmarried man next time. Jessica helped her grandmother into the car. As they drove away, she looked back at Jade, still sitting on the curb, a picture of utter humiliation. Grandma, Jessica said, her voice filled with awe, you are an absolute legend. Eleanor just smoothed her cardigan, her breathing slowly returning to normal. Don't mess with my family. Now, take me home. I have a score to settle with my grandson. That afternoon, Liam came home early. He walked into the kitchen and saw Eleanor sitting at the table, calmly sipping a cup of tea. Grandma, have you seen my phone? I've looked everywhere for it. It's in the bathroom, she said without looking up. Relieved, Liam went into the downstairs bathroom, and there it was, floating in the toilet bowl. He fished it out, water streaming from it. It was completely dead. He walked back into the kitchen, his face a mask of confusion and anger. Grandma, why was my phone in the toilet? I put it there. His eyes widened. You what? Why? That was a brand new phone. It cost almost $2,000. I don't care if it cost $1 million, she said, her voice dangerously calm. But why would you do that? Why? She repeated, standing up slowly. You want to know why? She walked over to the counter and picked up a heavy cast-iron skillet. Come here, Liam. Come closer. Grandma will tell you why. He took a step back, a flicker of fear in his eyes. She advanced on him, raising the skillet. You worthless cheating dog, she screamed, swinging the pan. You have a wife. A child on the way, and you're sneaking around with that trashy Jade. The first blow caught him on the shoulder. He yelped in pain and tried to run, but she was relentless, chasing him around the kitchen, swinging the heavy skillet like a woman possessed. "Grandma, stop. It's not what you think. Let me explain." "Explain what?" she shrieked, landing a glancing blow on his backside. "You think I'm a fool? You think I can't see what's right in front of my eyes? I'm going to beat the sin out of you today." That was the scene I walked into when I got home from work. My 80-year-old grandmother-in-law was chasing my husband around the house with a frying pan, and he was screaming like a child. His face was bruised, and a large red welt was already forming on his forehead. "What in the world is going on?" I asked, dropping my purse in shock. They both froze. Eleanor lowered the pan. Liam stood panting, holding his head. "Ask him," Eleanor said, gesturing with the skillet. "Ask your husband what he's been up to." Liam looked at me, his eyes filled with panic. "Oh, I fell down the stairs." "It's nothing. You fell?" I said, walking over to inspect the lump on his head. "This looks more like you got hit with something." "Nope, fell. I'm just clumsy." Later that evening, after Eleanor had gone to bed, I found Liam in the kitchen, cooking dinner. This was a first. He never cooked. "Let me do that," I said, trying to take the spatula from him. "You're hurt. You should rest." "No, it's fine," he said, not looking at me. "You should rest. I can handle it." I was mystified by his behavior, but I was too tired to argue. When we went to bed, I gently tried to question him again. "Honey, did you do something to make Grandma angry? I've never seen her like that before." "No," he said, a little too quickly. "It was nothing. Really. I want to help out more. You're pregnant, you're tired. I should be doing more around the house. That's all." It was a plausible lie, and because I wanted to believe him, because the alternative was too terrifying to contemplate, I accepted it. "Okay," I said, dabbing some ointment on his bruised forehead. "Well, however you got this bump, you look like you lost a fight with a heavyweight champion." I noticed he wasn't playing on his phone like he usually did before bed. "Where's your phone?" "Oh, I dropped it in the toilet. By accident," he mumbled. "I'll have to see if I can get it fixed tomorrow." A few days later, he borrowed a friend's phone and called Jade. The moment she heard his voice, she burst into tears. "Liam, where have you been? Your grandmother. She attacked me. She beat me up in the street. Look what she did to me." She sent him a picture of her bruised face and the scratches on her arms. He was horrified. "Oh my God, Jade, I am so sorry. I didn't know." He left work immediately and went to her apartment. Seeing her like that, battered and crying, filled him with a potent mixture of guilt and pity. "I'm so sorry," he kept saying, holding her as she sobbed. "She went too far. It's not just that," she cried. "She humiliated me. She called me a homewrecker. I didn't ask you to leave your wife for me, did I? Why did she have to do that?" He just held her, stroking her hair, murmuring apologies. "How are you going to make it up to me, Liam?" she asked, looking up at him through her tear-filled eyes. "I want to go away somewhere, just for a weekend. You and me, please." He hesitated, but looking at her bruised face, how could he say no? "Okay," he said. "Anything you want." She wiped her tears, a slow, calculated smile forming on her lips. "What if I told you I wanted to be your wife? Could you give me that?" The question hung in the air between them. He was trapped, utterly and completely trapped. And then she delivered the final, devastating blow. I think I might be pregnant. What? Liam's blood ran cold. Pregnant? How? Jade gave a watery, helpless little shrug. How do you think? We've been sleeping together for a month. I'm 5 days late. My face is too bruised to go out and buy a test myself. But I just have a feeling. He scrambled to his feet, pacing the small apartment. But I told you to be careful. Weren't you taking something? I'm forgetful sometimes, she said, her voice small and wounded. You could have reminded me. His mind was a whirlwind of panic and disbelief. A baby. Another baby. He ran out to the nearest pharmacy and bought a pregnancy test. The result was instantaneous. 2 stark, undeniable pink lines. He stared at the plastic stick in his hand, his world tilting on its axis. It's positive, he whispered, the words feeling like ash in his mouth. So, she said, her voice soft but firm, a steel thread running through the silk. What are you going to do now, Liam? You can't leave me to raise your child alone. He was drowning. A tidal wave of his own making was pulling him under, and he couldn't breathe. While Liam's life was imploding, a digital ticking time bomb was about to detonate. The busboy who had filmed Liam and Jade in the restroom had been sitting on the video, unsure of what to do with it. But after hearing the local gossip about the fight at the cafe, about the rich city girl and the old flame, he saw an opportunity. He posted the 12-minute video online, and it went viral. In a small town, gossip travels faster than fire. The video spread through text messages and social media feeds like a plague. I was at work, sitting at my desk, when I first noticed it. The whispers, the sideways glances. People would walk past my desk, their eyes full of a pity that I didn't understand. My coworker, Sarah, a woman in her 40s with kind, sad eyes, came over to my desk. Clara, she said, her voice low. Your husband. I'm so sorry. I looked at her, completely bewildered. Sorry for what? What's going on? You haven't seen it? Seen what? She just shook her head, her eyes welling up with tears. Just check your phone. Check the town's community page on Facebook. My hands were trembling as I unlocked my phone. I had dozens of notifications, messages from friends, all with the same panicked tone. Clara, are you okay? Call me as soon as possible. Oh my God, Clara, I just saw this. Is this Liam? And then I saw it, a link to the video. The thumbnail was grainy, indistinct. I clicked on it, and my world ended. There is no way to describe the feeling of watching the person you love most in the world betray you in the most graphic, humiliating way possible. It wasn't just heartbreak, it was a physical violation. My vision tunneled. The sounds of the office faded into a dull roar. I felt the blood drain from my face. I stood up, my chair scraping loudly against the floor, and I walked out. I don't remember driving home. I don't remember walking through the front door. The next thing I knew, I was sitting on the living room sofa, staring at the shattered porcelain mug on the hearth. Eleanor was holding my hand. My mother-in-law was weeping silently in a corner. My father-in-law was radiating a murderous rage. And then Liam came home. That night was the longest of my life. After Liam's pathetic attempt at an explanation, after Eleanor kicked him out, the house fell into a stunned, grief-stricken silence. He didn't leave. He just sat on the porch, steps in the cold, a ghost haunting his own home. His parents and Eleanor took turns going out there, their voices rising and falling in the darkness, pleading, arguing, reasoning, trying to drag him back from the precipice. She has brainwashed you, Liam. I heard Eleanor's sharp voice cut through the night. You have to come to your senses. It's not just about her anymore, Grandma. His voice, weary and broken, drifted in through the open window. I lay in our bed, our empty bed, and I cried until my body ached and my eyes were swollen shut. I had never known a pain like this. It was a physical agony, a hollowed-out feeling in my chest that I was sure would kill me. The next morning, the fight was over. The decision had been made. I heard his footsteps on the stairs. He walked into our bedroom, a suitcase in his hand. He didn't look at me. He just started pulling clothes out of the closet, folding them with a numb, mechanical precision. The silence was deafening. I couldn't stand it. "So that's it?" I said, my voice hoarse from crying. "You've made your choice." He finally looked at me, his eyes red-rimmed and empty. "Clara, a divorce is the best thing for everyone right now." A bitter, hysterical laugh escaped my lips. "The best thing? The best thing for who, Liam? For you? For her?" I sat up, my hand on my belly. What did I do wrong? Tell me. What was so terrible about our life, about me, that you had to do this? "You did nothing wrong," he said, his voice barely a whisper. "This is all my fault. I'm the one who messed up. Then fix it," I cried, my voice cracking. "If you know you're wrong, then stay. Apologize. Fight for us." He shook his head, a single tear tracing a path through the stubble on his cheek. "I can't, Jade. She's pregnant, Clara. I can't abandon her. Not now." The room went silent again. The words hit me like a physical blow, knocking the air from my lungs. Pregnant. Of course she was. The final, perfect, unforgivable checkmate. "What about me?" I whispered, the words catching in my throat. "What about our baby?" "You have my parents," he said, his gaze fixed on the floor. "You have Eleanor. They love you, Jade. She has no one but me. I can't just throw her away." I stared at him, at this stranger who wore my husband's face, the love of my life, the gentle, kind man I had married, was gone. In his place was this weak, cowardly creature, spouting pathetic excuses. "I'm sorry, Clara," he said. "I'm so sorry." "Get out," I said, my voice flat, devoid of all emotion. "Just get out." He zipped the suitcase. He walked to the door, then paused, his hand on the knob. He looked back at me, his face a mask of misery. "I really did love you," he whispered. Then he was gone. Downstairs, his parents tried to stop him. I heard my father-in-law shouting, my mother-in-law pleading. I walked to the top of the stairs and watched as Eleanor physically tried to block the door, clinging to his suitcase. "You are not leaving this house," she cried. "I forbid it." I walked slowly down the stairs. "Let him go," I said, my voice calm, steady. "Grandma, let him go." They all turned to look at me. "If he wants to leave, you can't stop him," I said, looking directly at Liam. He made his choice. He wouldn't meet my eyes. He pulled the suitcase from Eleanor's grasp and walked out the door, out of our home, out of my life. The next month was a blur of legal papers and quiet grief. I signed the divorce papers without reading them. I couldn't bear to. I took a leave of absence from work and went back to the city, back to my parents' house. I needed the comfort of my childhood home, the unconditional love of my family. Meanwhile, Liam and Jade began their new life together. He moved into her apartment, a trendy, overpriced rental that he soon discovered she didn't own. One morning, as he was getting ready for work, the doorbell rang. It was an angry-looking woman he didn't recognize. "I'm looking for Jade," she said, peering past him into the apartment. "You her boyfriend?" "Yes." "Can I help you?" "You can help me by paying the rent. She's 2 months behind. That's $2,000. Liam was stunned. Rent? I thought this was her apartment. The woman laughed, a harsh, humorless sound. She owns this place? That's a good one. She's a renter, buddy. And a bad one at that. Now, pay up, or I'm changing the locks. The $2,000 was nearly all of Liam's savings. Jade, it turned out, hadn't worked a day since she'd been back in the country. He was supporting her completely, and her expensive tastes for designer clothes, for fancy dinners, for weekends away, were bleeding him dry. A month later, I went into labor. It was a long, difficult birth, but my family was there. My parents, my brothers, and his family was there too. His parents, Holly, and even Eleanor, who refused to leave the waiting room for 16 hours. The only person missing was the baby's father. He didn't even know his son was being born. He was too busy taking care of Jade. My son, Noah, was born at dawn, healthy and beautiful. He looked just like Liam. Holding him for the first time, I felt a love so fierce, so overwhelming, it eclipsed all the pain. He was mine. He was all that mattered now. Liam found out a few days later. He saw the date on a calendar at work, and it hit him. October 6th, my due date. A friend from his office, a good man, saw the look on his face. "Hey, man," he said gently. "Whatever happened between you and Clara, that's your business. But a man should be there for his son. You should go see him." He took the advice. He went to a children's store and bought a bag full of clothes and toys. Then he drove to my parents' house. I was sitting in the living room, rocking Noah, when he walked in. The front door had been unlocked. He stopped in the doorway, his eyes wide. "Clara." "Liam," I said, my voice neutral. I came to see the baby. Are you both okay?" "We're fine," I said. He walked closer, his eyes fixed on the tiny bundle in my arms. He's beautiful." He held out the bags. I brought him some things. He stood there awkwardly for a moment. Can I hold him?" I hesitated. A part of me, the angry, wounded part, wanted to scream at him, to tell him he had lost that right. But then I looked down at my son's innocent face, and I looked at the raw hunger in Liam's eyes. "All right," I sighed. I carefully transferred our son into his father's arms. Liam held him, his big hands looking clumsy and oversized. He stared down at Noah's face, a perfect miniature of his own, and tears began to stream down his cheeks. "You should eat more, Clara," he said, his voice thick. "You need to keep your strength up for the milk." "I know. Don't worry about me." "I'm so sorry," he whispered, his tears falling onto Noah's blanket. "I'm so sorry for what I did to you, to us. I didn't say anything. I just let him have his moment. It's a strange thing, forgiveness." At that moment, watching him hold our son, I didn't feel anger. I didn't feel hatred. I just felt tired. A deep, soul-crushing weariness. My mother came home from the grocery store then. Seeing Liam, her face hardened. He immediately handed Noah back to me, mumbled a goodbye, and practically ran out the door. I watched him go, a single thought echoing in my mind. I hope you're happy with the choice you made. But he wasn't. His new life was already starting to crumble. The illusion of a romantic new beginning for Liam and Jade shattered quickly under the harsh glare of reality. Jade's pregnancy, which had been the catalyst for so much destruction, became a source of constant friction. She was demanding, her moods swinging wildly. The money he earned, which had once been enough for a comfortable, simple life, was now a constant source of anxiety, evaporating almost as soon as it hit his bank account. $10,000 a year for rent, her insistence on organic, gourmet food, her need for new clothes to accommodate her changing body. His salary was no match for her lifestyle. The strain began to show. One evening, he was in the kitchen, dutifully cooking a simple meal of pork chops and rice, when she wafted in, a discontented pout on her face. "Ugh, I don't want that," she whined. "I'm craving seafood. Let's go out for lobster." "Jade, I've already cooked," he said, his voice tight with frustration. "We can't afford to eat out every night. We need to save money." "But I'm craving it," she insisted. "I don't want pork chops. I want lobster. And crab legs. Maybe some other time," he said, trying to keep his voice even. "The money. It's getting tight. We have to be careful." "Tight?" Her eyes narrowed. "What are you doing with your money, Liam? Are you sending it to her? To Clara and that baby?" He slammed the spatula down on the counter. "Don't start with that again. You know I haven't given her a single penny. Not because I don't want to, but because I don't have any to give." "Oh, I'm sure," she sneered. "I saw you went to visit them. You think I don't know? You probably gave her a stack of cash." "I bought my son a onesie, Jade. A $20 piece of clothing. That's it. Look at the bills. Rent, electricity, your credit card statements. You do the math. There's nothing left." "I don't care about your salary," she shot back. "What about your savings?" "My savings?" He laughed, a bitter, hollow sound. "You're looking at them. They paid for your apartment deposit and the 2 months of back rent you conveniently forgot to mention. They're gone." "Well, that's not my problem," she shrieked. "I want lobster." He sighed, his shoulders slumping in defeat. "I'm not doing this tonight. I'm exhausted." She held out her hand. "Fine, I'll go by myself. Give me your wallet." He took out his wallet, threw it on the table, and walked away. "Take it all. There's about $100 in there. Go on, have a feast." He went into the bedroom and slammed the door. He heard her snatch the wallet, and the front door slam shut. He sat on the edge of the bed and put his head in his hands. He couldn't eat. A lump of regret and despair was lodged in his throat, choking him. She came home late, smelling of wine, and got into bed without a word. He lay there in the dark, awake, listening to her breathe, and for the first time, he allowed himself to admit the truth. He had made a catastrophic mistake. The next day, he came home from work to find her sitting on the couch, painting her nails. There was no food in the house. "You didn't go shopping?" he asked, his voice flat. "With what money?" she retorted without looking up. "You said yourself you're broke, so what are we supposed to do? Starve?" "You're the man," she said, examining her nails. "You're supposed to provide. Isn't that your job? You have to take care of me and your baby." He swallowed his pride. He pulled out his phone, his hands shaking, and he called the one person he knew he could always count on, his mom. "Mom?" he said, his voice cracking. I need to borrow some money." There was a long pause on the other end of the line. He could hear the pain in her silence. But she was his mother, and a mother can never truly abandon her child. She sent him $300, enough to get them through the week. As he hung up, a wave of shame so profound washed over him that he felt physically ill. Jade, however, was not content to sit at home, pregnant and poor. The life she had envisioned, one of glamour and ease, funded by an adoring man, was not materializing. She started to get bored, restless. She met up with an old friend from high school, a woman who had married well and now lived a life of effortless luxury. "Oh my God, look at you," Jade gushed, admiring her friend's new designer handbag. "That must have cost a fortune." This old thing, her friend laughed. It was a gift from my boyfriend. A little something to apologize for being late to dinner. You're so lucky, Jade sighed. A rich boyfriend. That's the dream. It's not luck, sweetie. It's strategy, her friend said, stirring her cocktail. You have to choose wisely. Which reminds me, how are you? You look tired. I'm pregnant, Jade confessed. Pregnant? Oh, honey. No, that's a career killer. Who's the father? Liam. You remember Liam, my old boyfriend? Liam? Skinny, glasses-wearing Liam? I thought he got married. He did. But he left his wife for me. Her friend stared at her, her perfectly sculpted eyebrows raised in disbelief. You got him to leave his pregnant wife for you, and all you have to show for it is a cheap apartment and last season's shoes? Jade, you are playing the game all wrong. Liam is broke. How is he going to support a child? I know, Jade lamented. I'm starting to regret it. Look at you, her friend said, gesturing at Jade's small but noticeable baby bump. You're barely showing. If you're not sure about this, you can still fix it. Find a man with some real money, someone who can give you the life you deserve. But I'm 3 months pregnant, so people get rid of them at 6 months. 3 is nothing. It's a choice, Jade. A life of poverty with Liam, or a life of luxury with someone else. Your call. Just then, her friend's boyfriend arrived, another man in tow. He was older, European, dressed in an impeccably tailored suit. Peter, darling, the friend cooed. This is my friend, Jade. Peter, do you have a girlfriend? The man, Peter, smiled, his eyes lingering on Jade. Not at the moment, no. Well, this is Jade, her friend said with a wink. And she's single and ready to mingle. For the rest of the evening, Peter's attention was fixed on Jade. She was flattered, energized by the attention of a wealthy, powerful man. When he offered to drive her home in his sleek, expensive car, she didn't refuse. He asked for her number, and she gave it to him. That night, as Liam was in the kitchen washing dishes, Peter called. Jade snatched the phone and ran into the bathroom to take the call. Hello, Jade. It's Peter. I couldn't stop thinking about you. She spent the next 10 minutes laughing and flirting, her voice a low, seductive murmur. When she came out of the bathroom, she immediately texted her friend. Peter just called. He asked me out for tomorrow. The friend replied instantly. Go. He's loaded. He'll treat you like a queen, but you need to take care of your situation first. Jade, I'm scared. Will it hurt? Friend, a little pinch, nothing you can't handle. Think of the alternative. A lifetime of pinching pennies with Liam. I'll go with you. Tomorrow morning, be ready. When Liam came up to bed, he tried to be affectionate. He brought her a glass of milk. Here, honey, for the baby. She turned her back to him. I don't want it. I feel sick. He lay down beside her, stroking her back. I know things have been tough lately, but I'm going to work harder. I'll pick up extra shifts. I'll take care of you and our baby. I promise. She just grunted in response. She lay awake for hours, staring into the darkness, her friend's words echoing in her mind. A life of poverty or a life of luxury. By the time the sun rose, she had made her decision. The next morning, as soon as Liam left for work, her friend was at the door. Together, they went to a clinic. An hour later, it was over. The situation had been taken care of. That very evening, she went on her first date with Peter. He took her to the most expensive restaurant in the city. He noticed her pale complexion. Are you feeling unwell? He asked. his voice full of concern. "Just a little tired," she said. He reached into his wallet and pulled out a thick wad of cash. He peeled off 10 $100 bills and pushed them across the table. "Here," he said. "Buy yourself something nice, something to make you feel better." She had never seen so much cash in her life. This, she thought, this is how life is supposed to be. Meanwhile, in Liam's childhood home, another plot was brewing. Eleanor, seeing the profound, soul-deep misery in her grandson, decided it was time to intervene again. "He's changed," she said to her daughter-in-law one afternoon. "He knows he made a mistake. It's time to bring Clara home." "But how?" Liam's mother asked. "She's with her parents, and they hate us now. They won't let her come back." "We have to be clever," Eleanor said, a familiar, shrewd glint in her eye. "Here is what we are going to do. You will go to the city. You will visit Clara and the baby. You will tell her that I am sick, very sick, that I am wasting away from a broken heart because I miss my great-grandson. You will lay it on thick. Clara has a soft heart. She loves me. She will come." "Do you think it will work?" "It has to," Eleanor said, "for the sake of that child." And so, Liam's mother took the bus to the city. She found me at my parents' house, rocking Noah on the porch swing. "Clara, dear," she said, her face a perfect mask of sorrowful concern. She took Noah from my arms, her eyes filling with tears. "Oh, he's so beautiful. If only his great-grandmother could see him." "Is Eleanor okay?" I asked, a knot of worry forming in my stomach. She shook her head, dabbing at her eyes with a handkerchief. "She's not well, Clara. She's taken to her bed. She barely eats. The doctor says there's nothing physically wrong with her. He says she's dying of a broken heart. She misses you, and she's desperate to meet her great-grandson before it's too late." The words struck me like a physical blow. Eleanor, my fierce, formidable, frying-pan-wielding Eleanor, was wasting away. Because of me. The guilt was immediate and overwhelming. "I have to go to her," I said, my voice trembling. "I have to take Noah to see her." My parents were hesitant, but I was insistent. That very afternoon, I packed a bag for me and the baby and my mother-in-law, and I took a taxi back to the countryside. When we arrived, my father-in-law met us at the door, his face grim. "She's in her room," he whispered. "She's very weak." My heart pounded as I carried Noah into her dimly lit bedroom. She was lying in bed, the covers pulled up to her chin, her face pale and still. "Grandma," I whispered, my voice thick with tears. "It's me. It's Clara. I brought someone to meet you." She opened her eyes slowly. They were glassy, unfocused. "Clara?" she rasped. I brought Noah closer, placing him gently on the bed beside her. Her eyes widened. A flicker of the old fire returned. She reached out a trembling hand and touched his soft cheek. "My boy," she whispered. "My beautiful boy." She sat up, all traces of her illness miraculously gone, and scooped him into her arms, covering his face with kisses. Later, I was in the kitchen, helping my mother-in-law with dinner, when Liam came home. He walked in and saw me standing there, and he just froze, his eyes filled with a desperate, hopeful light. "Clara," he breathed. I managed a small, hesitant smile. "Hello, Liam." He just stared at me, tears welling in his eyes. "Why are you crying?" I asked softly. "Because you're here," he said, his voice choked with emotion. "And you're smiling at me. Thank you." That night, the house was filled with a fragile, tentative peace. Eleanor was her old, bossy self again, ordering everyone around. My in-laws were visibly relieved. And Liam, he followed me around like a lost puppy, his eyes full of a remorse so profound it was almost painful to look at. He wanted to come back. He wanted a second chance. And looking at my son, and then at the broken man who was his father, I had a decision to make. Was love strong enough to forgive the unforgivable? Jade, meanwhile, had fully embraced her new life. Days after her procedure, while her body was still healing, she was on a plane to a luxury resort in the Caribbean with Peter. She moved into his sprawling, minimalist villa without a second thought, trading her rented apartment for a world of infinity pools and catered dinners. She believed she had won, but she hadn't done her homework. She was so blinded by the money, so trusting of her friends' assurances. She never thought to dig into Peter's background. She never imagined that the life he was offering her was built on a foundation of lies. One sunny afternoon, she was lounging by the pool in a sheer negligee, scrolling through her phone. Peter was doing laps in the pool. She heard the click of the front gate opening, but paid it no mind, assuming it was the house staff. "Darling, are you finished with your swim?" she called out languidly. A woman's voice, with a sharp, foreign accent, replied from the doorway of the villa. "No, but I am." Jade sat up, startled. A tall, impeccably dressed woman was standing there, her eyes like chips of ice. "Who are you?" Jade asked, clutching the front of her negligee. "How did you get in here?" The gate was locked. "I am Peter's wife," the woman said, a cruel smirk playing on her lips. "And of course I have a key." The world seemed to stop. Jade stared at her, her mind refusing to process the words. His wife. You're joking. He's not married. "Oh, you poor, foolish girl," the woman said, walking slowly towards her. "Not only is he married, but our son just turned 5. I take him to visit his grandparents in Europe for 1 month, and my husband brings a cheap whore into our home." How predictable. Panic seized Jade. She tried to scramble to her feet, to run, but the woman was on her in an instant. She grabbed Jade's hair, yanking her back. "You think you can just run away?" she hissed. "You enjoyed sleeping with my husband? Let's see how much you enjoy this." She pulled a small, sharp object from her purse. It glinted in the sunlight, a box cutter. Jade screamed, a raw, terrified sound that was drowned out by the splash of Peter climbing out of the pool. "Stop! What are you doing?" he yelled. But it was too late. With 2 quick, vicious slashes, his wife carved long, deep gashes into Jade's face. Blood streamed down her cheeks, a shocking, vibrant red against her pale skin. Peter rushed to intervene, and his wife turned on him, the blade flashing, catching him on the arm and chest. He recoiled, shouting in pain. In the chaos, Jade managed to break free. She ran, out of the villa, out of the gated community, her bare feet slapping against the hot pavement, her face a bloody mask of horror and agony. Her dream life was over. 2 months passed. 2 months of me living back in Liam's family home, of navigating the fragile, unspoken truce between us. It was a strange limbo. We were divorced, yet we were living under the same roof, co-parenting our son. The love I had for him, which I thought had been burned to ash, was still there, a stubborn ember glowing beneath the surface of my anger and hurt. He was a different man. The ordeal had broken him, but it had also remade him. He was humble, patient, and endlessly devoted. He worked tirelessly, and every cent he earned, he gave to me. For Noah, he did the cooking, the cleaning, the laundry. He would wake up in the middle of the night to change diapers and soothe our crying son, insisting that I rest. He was trying, in every way he knew how, to atone for his sins. He wanted us to get back together, to remarry. He asked me to give him another chance. I was torn. My heart, foolish as it was, wanted to say yes. But my head, the part that remembered the humiliation, the pain, the 12-minute video, screamed at me to be careful. Can people really change? Or do they just get better at hiding who they really are? It's a question you can't answer until you take the risk. And so, I took it. I agreed to start over. Our new beginning was quiet, gentle. It wasn't the fiery, naive passion of our first love, but something deeper, more mature, something forged in the crucible of pain and forgiveness. Eleanor was in heaven. She spent her days doting on Noah, her sharp edges completely softened by the presence of her great-grandson. I was preparing to go back to work, and one afternoon, as I was getting ready to go shopping for a new work wardrobe, she stopped me. "Here," she said, pressing a thick envelope of cash into my hand. It was $2,000. "Grandma, what is this?" "I can't take this." She smiled, her eyes crinkling at the corners. "It's your money. It's the tuition you paid me when you first moved in. For the burnt soup, the murdered chicken, the haunted tree. All of it. I was just holding it for you. Now go, buy yourself some beautiful clothes, and get your hair done. You deserve it." I threw my arms around her, my heart swelling with a love and gratitude so immense it brought tears to my eyes. I went shopping, and on my way home, I decided to stop by Liam's office to surprise him. But as I approached the building, I saw a familiar figure standing near the entrance. It was Jade. She was wearing a scarf wrapped around the lower half of her face. She looked thin, haunted. She was waiting for him. When Liam came out of the building, she rushed towards him. "Liam, please, you have to help me." He stopped, his face hardening. "Jade, what are you doing here?" She pulled down the scarf, revealing the two puckered, angry scars that ran down her cheeks. He gasped, "My God, what happened to your face?" "This is the price I paid for being a fool," she said, her voice choked with tears. "I have nothing, Liam. He kicked me out. I have no money, nowhere to go. My family won't help me. You're the only one I have." I stood across the street, watching, my heart a cold, hard knot in my stomach. Was this it? Was she going to pull him back in, with her tears and her tragedy? He sighed, a long, weary sound. "Jade, I'm sorry for what happened to you, but I can't help you." "Why not?" she cried, grabbing his arm. "You loved me once. Don't abandon me now, please." I decided I had seen enough. It was time for me to handle this. I walked across the street, my heels clicking purposefully on the pavement. "What do you think you're doing?" I said, my voice dangerously calm. They both jumped, startled. Liam looked at me, his eyes pleading. "Help me." I turned my attention to Jade, let go of my husband's arm. She dropped her hand as if she'd been burned, but her eyes flashed with defiance. She decided to go on the offensive, to try and drive a wedge between us. "You took him back?" she sneered. "After everything he did? After he left you for me? How pathetic." I just smiled, a cold, serene smile that didn't reach my eyes. People make mistakes. The important thing is whether they learn from them. He's changed. He's a good man now, a good husband and a good father. And you are nothing but a sad, desperate mistake that he has thankfully moved on from. She lunged at me then, her hand raised to slap me. I was ready. I sidestepped her clumsy attack, grabbed her by the hair, and used her own momentum to swing her around. I brought my knee up sharply into her stomach. She doubled over, gasping for air. Before she could recover, I slapped her hard, 5 times across her scarred face. This slap is for the lies, Slap, this is for the humiliation. Slap, this is for my family. Slap, and this slap is to remind you to stay the hell away from my husband. A crowd from the office had gathered, watching the spectacle in stunned silence. I let go of her hair, and she stumbled back. I took Liam's hand. "From now on," I said, my voice ringing with a newfound strength and clarity, "I will not let you go, and I will not let anyone take you from me. Do you understand?" He just nodded, his eyes wide with a mixture of fear and awe. We walked away, leaving Jade standing there, defeated and alone. When we got home, he immediately started to explain. "Clara, I swear, I haven't spoken to her. She just showed up. I was going to tell her to leave." I put a finger to his lips, silencing him. "I know," I said, a real smile finally breaking through. "I saw. I trust you." I leaned in close, my voice dropping to a whisper. "But I also want you to know, if you ever think about straying again, what you saw today will feel like a gentle massage compared to what I will do to you. Grandma Eleanor taught me well." He laughed, a sound of pure relief. "Don't worry, you're much scarier than she is." Eleanor, who had been listening from the doorway, just grunted. "Good. Now one of you, make dinner. And there's a basket of the baby's laundry that needs to be washed by hand." Life isn't a fairy tale. There aren't always perfect endings. Sometimes, love is messy and complicated. It involves forgiveness and hard work and the courage to believe in second chances. People say I was weak to take him back, that I forgave him too easily. But they don't see the man he is today. They don't see the way he looks at our son, the way he holds my hand, the quiet gratitude in his eyes. He made a mistake, a terrible one. But as they say, you don't kick a man when he's down, especially when he's trying to get back up. You give him a hand, and sometimes, if you're both strong enough, you can climb back into the light together.